Good day, everyone. Miss Cartwright here. I'm going to go through the Prejudice and Discrimination unit today. This is in preparation for the quiz. I'll make the quiz available on Wednesday. You'll have 45 minutes or 50 minutes to complete the quiz. It'll be put onto Plus Portal and you'll only get one try at the quiz, okay? So make sure that you're confident with the unit, that you've revised the key terms and the key concepts before doing the quiz, because there's only one try, okay? So today we're going to review key concepts. We're going to outline the different types of prejudice and discrimination, and we're going to evaluate what the Christian response to different types of prejudice and discrimination is, okay? So to begin with, some key terms. So prejudice is prejudging someone or something before you know all the facts. So it's usually having negative thoughts about someone because of a group that they belong to. A way of remembering this, prejudice prejudging, so judging someone before you know everything about them. So for example, thinking all old people aren't able to work because they are weak, okay? Discrimination is prejudice in action. So this is actually treating someone differently because of what you think about them. And usually discrimination is negative. So for example, not employing an older person because you think they're weak and they won't be able to do the job. However, there is positive discrimination, and this is treating someone positively because they may have been discriminated against in the past. So for example, purposely a company employing someone that's older to do a job because they want to positively discriminate. The next keyword is to stereotype, and this is having an oversimplified view of someone and applying it to everyone in that group. So for example, thinking that all blonde people aren't intelligent and applying it to every blonde person that you will meet. The next key term is scapegoating, and this is when so you blame a whole group for a problem in society. So for example, blaming all foreign people for the unemployment rate in a society. Another key word that I want you to think about is equality. We looked at this during the previous unit, and it's everyone having the same status, the same rights, and the same opportunities. The next word I want you to think about is tolerance, and being tolerant is respecting and accepting the beliefs and practices of others, irrespective of what you think, okay? So making sure that you respect other people no matter what. And the final key term I want you to think about is justice, doing what is right, doing what is just, and doing what is fair. Okay, remember you can pause this video at any time. So I would advise at this moment, maybe pausing the video, writing out these key words and coming up with your own examples for each one. So your own example of discrimination, your own example of scapegoating. Be as specific as you can. Okay. So prejudice and discrimination can occur whenever there are differences between people. So whenever there's a difference, someone can prejudge, someone can think something about someone, and someone can discriminate, treat someone differently based on this thought. And there are lots and lots of different types. We'll go through some of the main ones. So one of the main ones is racism. So this is based on the colour of someone's skin or their race. Another example is ethnicity, so based on someone's cultural heritage, language, or tradition. Included in this is xenophobia, so this is having prejudice or discrimination against someone based on their country of where they're from. Another example is based on gender. This is called sexism. Another example is based on someone's sexuality, so this can be called homophobia or biphobia, and this is based on someone's sexual orientation. Another example is based on someone having a disability. And favoritism, so preferring able-bodied people, is called ableism. Another example is based on someone's age, ageism. As we said, this can be against older people, but it also can be against younger people. So, for example, having a prejudice that all teenagers are only interested in their phones. Another example is based on religion, or based on someone's religion or spiritual beliefs, and specifically prejudice or discrimination towards Jews is called anti-Semitism, and towards Muslims is called Islamophobia. And this isn't an exhaustive list, okay? Prejudice and discrimination, as we said, comes whenever there are differences. So this can also be based on someone's social class, someone's lifestyle choice, their political opinion, and also their appearance, the way someone looks. You can have preconceived ideas about them, maybe because of the way they dress or how they have their hair. Okay, a reminder again, you can pause this, you can take some notes if you like. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. So why are people prejudiced? Why do people discriminate? There are many, many different reasons. One of those is historical events. So historically, there has been a lot of anti-Semitism, so prejudice and discrimination towards Jewish people. One of the main reasons I'd say is ignorance, a lack of understanding, a lack of education. Another reason is someone's upbringing. So if their parents or whoever's brought them up has those prejudiced views, it's more likely that their children will. Also, friends and peers, if they have certain prejudices, it's likely that they will rub off on you as well. Experience, so if someone's had a negative experience with someone from a certain group, they may take that experience and think that it's everyone in that group that must behave that way. The media plays a massive part in prejudice and discrimination, often giving sort of stereotypical views about people, and this can reinforce people's prejudices. And another reason is religion, reading religion a certain way and then believing that should be followed dogmatically. What are the effects of prejudice and discrimination? There are so many. This list isn't exhaustive. One of the main ones is fear. If someone is being discriminated against, they're likely to feel fearful in that society. A feeling of worthlessness, being stressed, being depressed, a lack of opportunities. If someone from a certain group is often overlooked for certain things, they're not able to access the same things as everyone else. Depression, as we said, a feeling of isolation, a feeling of not belonging in their society or with their peers. It can lead to suicide, it can lead to harassment, and going on from that, then even further down the line, it can lead to murder and lead to genocide, as we saw with World War II and Hitler. His prejudice led to discrimination of the Jewish people, which led to mass genocide. Okay, again, you can pause here, you can take these notes down so that you've got them on a revision card for future reference. Okay, so moving on. What are the responses then? As an individual, you can respond to prejudice and discrimination by sticking up for people, by speaking out. One of the difficulties with this is that prejudice is difficult to prevent, because this involves the way people think, and we don't always know some of the prejudices that people have. The best way is through education, so educating people about the reasons why they might have these prejudices and helping them to overcome it, and also social interaction. So if you have a prejudice towards a certain group of people, usually if you interact with those people, you will find that those prejudices disappear, because you will realize that actually everyone is the same and we should all be treated equally. Discrimination is a lot easier to prevent because it involves actions and people treating people differently. So therefore, lots of laws and guidelines have been put in place to make sure that those people that do discriminate are accounted for. After World War II, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was drafted, and this sets out an exhaustive list of basic rights and freedoms that everyone should be entitled to. And these include the right to life, the right to freedom of expression, the right not to be tortured. This isn't an exhaustive list. I'll post a link below this video of another video that goes through the Universal Declaration of Rights and the history of that. So I'd advise you watching that at the end of this video too. Okay, moving on. The law. So the Constitution of the Bahamas specifically prohibits discrimination. So this means that those people or companies that do discriminate can be liable to punishment. And Article 15 entitles everyone to fundamental rights and freedoms, whatever their race, a place of origin, political opinions, colour, creed or sex. And Article 26 states that no person should be treated in a discriminatory manner. So the law here is covering discrimination to make sure that people are protected. Okay, what is the Christian response to prejudice and discrimination? There are numerous responses. So Christians should believe that all forms of prejudice and discrimination are wrong. It goes against God's wishes. In Genesis, God created man in his own image. So therefore, this is saying that everyone is made in God's image. So therefore, everyone should be treated with respect. In Luke, it says that no life is overlooked by God. We can use this quote to argue against so many types of prejudice and discrimination, racism, sexism, ableism. And you can use that quote to say that everyone is valued by God and therefore everyone should be respected. In Galatians, it says there are neither Jew nor Greek, so we can use this to fight against racism, slave or free, male or female, so using this to fight against sexism, for you are all one in Christ. So this reminds Christians that everyone is equal, therefore everyone should be treated with respect. In Leviticus, it says, show respect for old people and honor them. So this is directly arguing against ageism, and it's promoting that everyone should be respected. Also in Leviticus, it says, do not mistreat foreigners who are living in your land. So this is arguing against racism and also against xenophobia. In Samuel, when he was asked to choose a king, and he thought that God would choose the most handsome one, and God says, no, I've rejected him because I do not judge as people judge. They look at the outward appearance, but I look at the heart. So this is reminding Christians to look at people from their hearts, from their actions, rather than what they look like. So again, this quote can be used to argue against all types of prejudice and discrimination. Peter realized that God accepts, excuse me, I should have a capital G on that God. Please accept my apologies for that one. You now realize that God accepts everyone on the same basis. So again, reinforcing this idea of equality. In the parable of the Good Samaritan, we see Jesus directly speaking against racism, and also the idea that we should judge people for their actions rather than where they're from or what they look like. And when Jesus was preaching, he purposely healed the sick and the disabled, and he mixed with the poor and outcasts in society. And as we know, Christians should emulate Jesus. They should try to be like him. So therefore, Christians would respond that they should also do the same. Okay, sexism. So in Jesus' day, women were not seen to be as important as men. Their role was to get married and to care for children. However, Jesus's actions directly spoke against sexism. Two of his best friends, Martha and Mary, were women, and therefore he included them in his ministry. He allowed Mary to pour perfume on his feet and drying them. This is directly going against what would be the normal approach of the day, which would be that women should stand back and shouldn't approach a man unless they were invited. And we saw Jesus saving the woman from being stoned to death. He was specifically sticking up for women's rights. However, in practice in Christianity today, there are different views on the role of women within the church. And as we saw on our sexism questions, women cannot be priests in the Roman Catholic Church. Some of the reasons given for this, traditionally priests have always been men. Jesus's disciples were all men. During the Eucharist, the priest takes on the role of Jesus, who was a man, and therefore they would say that a woman cannot do that. But actually Roman Catholics would argue it's not seen as discrimination. They would argue that there are just different roles, so that a woman would have a different role to play in the church, but that would not include being a priest. However, in other churches, women are allowed to be ordained as priests. Some of the arguments for these are the world is constantly changing. If Christianity wants to appeal to a wider audience, then many Christians believe they have to change their way of thinking to be all-inclusive and to evangelize to every section of society. Some Christians would argue by refusing to ordain women that they are being sexist, and therefore they're violating human rights. And many people would argue that women are just as capable as men in the priesthood role. Okay, homophobia. So some conservative Christians do not agree with homosexuality. This is a crossover from the previous unit, so make sure you're using all of your notes from the previous unit as well. However, because they don't agree with it, it doesn't mean that they should persecute homosexuals. They would still argue that everyone should be treated with compassion. So some Christians see sex between two men or two women as being unnatural. As in Leviticus, it says, you shall not lie with a man as with a woman. Roman Catholics follow the natural law and say the main reason for sex is to conceive children, and therefore that's impossible with a same-sex couple. However, other Christians, more liberal Christians, hold a more tolerant view, and this is seen as some churches allow the ordination of gay priests as long as they are celibate. Other churches allow civil partnerships for gay couples and for gay priests as well, and some churches also allow gay marriage ceremonies. Okay, so what I want you to do is rewatch this video. You can pause it at any time. I would advise taking notes. Please contact me, so WhatsApp or email me with any questions, anything you want clarifying, anything you don't understand, anything you're a bit unsure of and want re-explaining. That's what I'm here for. I would advise between now and Wednesday making your own revision cards, and as I've said again, make sure you keep these safe. It's not just for this unit. You will need these revision cards when we take the BGCSE, so if you make them now and keep them safe, then you've got them to refer back to next year. As I said, the quiz will be available from Wednesday, and it must be completed by Monday at 3 o'clock. So when you're confident with your understanding, when you've got your revision cards made and you know all of your key terms, then you can start the quiz. Remember, you only have... Oh, sorry, my phone. Sorry about that. So remember, you've only got 50 minutes to complete the exam, so don't start it unless you've put the time aside and you've got a nice quiet space to complete it. And good luck. Once again, let me know if you need anything, if you don't understand anything, and hopefully I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye bye.